Hello, I'm Sam.
I'm Brandon.
And this is the Middleton Methods podcast, where you get to be a fly on our wall to get practical tips, gain insight, and laugh at our expense.
Oh boy, I think my battery might be dying.
Oh no, that means we're going to have to stop and re-roll here. Cut. Hello. I'm Sam.
I'm Brandon.
And this is the Middleton Methods podcast, where you get to be a fly on our wall to get practical tips, gain insight, and laugh at our expense. Like you may be doing right now. I don't know how you do that. They just start, they're like, you ready to record? And then you're like, wait a minute, I don't have battery. It's always something. Wait a minute, I got to get my water.
We have a little bit of a complicated setup here, so we wanted to be as portable as possible, but I think we have a little too many gadgets. So I think
we need like a travel...
7 battery. No, we have like 10 batteries. And
it's ridiculous.
For everything that runs right now.
Yeah.
Whatever.
All right, guys. We have a...
depressing episode for you today.
Stop that. Oh my gosh. I can already hear our coach being like, I cannot believe you started it off.
Hey, we're just going to have a very negative podcast today. That's all.
We are not. It's a good podcast talking about negative people.
Yes.
And apparently it's a sore subject for us because...
It's going to be painful. We're doing this for you because it's an important topic we get asked about a lot. We hear it a lot.
Yeah, people, we gotta wait. We just gotta wait. Because even negative people have challenged us, like, oh, are you fake? Like, do you smile too much? And it's just ridiculous. So that's what we're gonna talk about today, negative people. But first, you are jumping ahead, my dear, because we need to talk about our Middleton Madness. We can't leave people hanging.
Yes. Well, first, just a quick recap. It was Mother's Day. We had a very awesome early start to Mother's Day. Enjoyed the weekend. Starting Thursday, right? We had like a Thursday rolling.
So we're doing the quick and dirty weekend recap.
Yeah.
So we had a couple of days, not mommy daddy time, a couple of days husband wife time, whoop whoop, and then we had the kids join us for the rest of the weekend.
Yeah.
And extended our trip because it was raining and we got to miss a pool day, but then ultimately, had Mother's Day together and a couple days with the kids before getting back to the grind.
Yep. So yeah, we went to a local resort. Thankfully, it's not actually that far from us, so we didn't have to go all the way to Orlando. And we
had a little staycation.
Had a little staycation, and then got to hang with the kids and enjoy Mother's Day.
I already said that.
Yeah, she already said that.
Well. So tell me about this Middleton Madness.
All right, so picture this: we are in the hotel room. We sent Sam off to the spa for.
They literally kicked
evening.
me out. I was just trying to be lazy. On the couch.
Well, you got to be lazy for the first part of the morning. We ordered room service, and then we kicked you out. You went to the spa, got a nice pampering session.
# tough life.
While the kids and I had to manufacture your gift, which was pretty interesting. I went to Walmart and had a ton of craft supplies and had this whole plan for what we were going to...
Did you take the kids to Walmart with you too?
I did this days in advance. I was prepared.
Oh, got it.
So, just imagine we have the crafts sprung out amongst the hotel room. So I've got paper, I've got this giant card, we've got crayons, we've got paint. I don't know what I was thinking. Paint with a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old, with only one person watching. Yeah. So, long story short, we get into our project and we start. We made this jar for Sam, and this jar has all these cute little question and answer things that I asked the kids about mommy, and just got their raw, real responses for them. And
madness aside, which I hope you're getting to the madness of this, but that gift was beautiful, and really take notes. It was so creative. It was literally like this big mason jar filled with all these things, like Brandon, and it was color coded. So Brandon would ask the kids a question and it would be in blue, and then the kids answer depending on it was pink and Max was green, and the whole jar was just filled of things Brandon loved about me and things the kids loved about me, and I could tell which one said what. So it was really special. It was really beautiful. Thank you, by the way.
No problem. So halfway through it, I realized I need to bail on the paint. I mean, I got one side of this thing painted with a stencil, and then I was like, all right, Max is like, ooh, I want to paint. And I was thinking multiple colors. Yeah, we got one color in there. Because I'm like, this is just going to get, he's got paint like on his lips. We've got, I'm looking at the furniture thinking, oh, there's going to have to be a security deposit redeemed here. So I bailed on the paint halfway through. And yeah, we just made a huge mess. The kids are throwing parts of the stuff all over the room. And right in the middle of us like being done with this, all of a sudden Peyton comes over and she's got blueberries and these chocolate covered strawberries that I had.
My chocolate covered strawberries, and they ate every single one. I think I only ate like 4.
She asked if she could go get a strawberry, which this is new to us. The kids just like going into the fridge and getting whatever they want. But I'm like, look, I need as much cooperation as possible. So my parenting went like out the window. So
Brandon was so focused on making me a perfect present. I'm sure this is what was going through his head, that he neglected to think about what the kids were doing when they were running away.
No, I didn't neglect. I didn't care.
Oh,
as long as they were being
even worse. So they were literally just taking initiative on their own to get up and run to the fridge. And Peyton, mind you, is not a dummy. She's smart. So as soon as she realized Dad's not paying attention, she ate all of my chocolate-covered strawberries.
Yeah, there was like 10 left. So they just kept going back and forth between the craft project and the refrigerator. And once they ran out of strawberries, they were eating the the blueberries and the orange like decorations and stuff. And then
at least they went for fruit.
Then we had the leftovers. They start coming over with French fries. I'm like, these kids are eating lunch. It was fun. I look over the fridge door has been wide open for like the last 20 minutes
and
of our
I came
project.
back to the room.
But they were happy. They were so happy.
And then I spent like the next 45 minutes cleaning up the room because it was a mess. So happy Mother's Day.
It was a good time.
It was amazing. It was a really good day. And I couldn't have felt more loved with the presents that they gave me. So, I mean, they gave me one of those big jumbo cards too, like the really big ones that are like half the size of your body, and the kids drew in there, and it was really cool. And the kids had a great time, which is like probably 80% of the importance. 20% is our happiness, because if they're happy, like, we're happy.
So just the tip, especially when you're working on a project like that, you got to just let the kids, you got to let go of a little bit
on that one.
Let go of a little control.
All right.
And it all worked out.
We got to move on here before this goes way in the wrong direction. Okay. So we want to talk about today angry, hurtful, negative people. And like we were saying earlier, how did this come up? I think it just comes up because things in life happen. So but it is more like these days, seriously, like a punch in the face for Brandon and I to encounter negative people, because we've worked really, really hard at removing a lot of them from our life. Mm-hmm. We've realized a long time ago that in order to get to the next level, like, we couldn't be sidetracked with drama and negativity. That was a lot harder for me, I think, just like because socially, women, the way that we're raised as women most of the time is kind of like gossipy, right? Like, you kind of talk about other people, and I mean, the people talk about other people to make themselves feel good. And if you grow up in a negative environment, those are just the things that you grow up around. So like, kicking those habits and not being that way can be challenging. And it is something that we had to face a long time ago in order to grow. You know
what I've realized, what I believe is true, is not just women, but anyone who does gossip and complain, I believe they're looking to connect with people.
Yeah,
right? So if we don't have anything positive in common, or we have to work harder to find things that are positive to talk about, let's just talk about the drama, the negativity. It comes off negative, obviously. So, but what they're really doing is they're filling a need. They don't realize they're creating another problem, but they're filling a need by, being like, oh, you're like me. You don't like this either.
Right. Which has always driven me nuts, actually. So even though it's like more socially acceptable, especially in lower income environments, right? Like, we experienced that a lot more when we were really broke. You're hanging around with a whole bunch of broke people, and what is there
living
to do
in a
except
neighborhood of
complain,
broke people,
right?
and
exactly.
Going to work with a bunch of broke people.
Right. So let's talk for a minute about why.
How do we deal with negative people?
Well, we'll talk about how we deal with them in a minute, but I want to just break down for a minute, almost like the science behind it. I don't know if it's really a science, but just like there was a point where we had to realize what it was about people that was making them negative. And I don't want that to be ignored, because it's easy to just say, you're around negative people and here's what to do to not be around them anymore.
Right.
But it's a different thing to just kind of understand like why they are the way they are, and then what they may be doing that's getting on your nerves, and then ultimately what do you do to
There's a time
that.
in our life where we were negative people.
I mean,
right? To some people, we were probably negative people when we were younger
are
and
negative
immature.
Still sometimes to people. I mean, not everything is 100% perfect all the time, right? So... But hashing these out when you can be more positive, or at least understand other people in your life, like, it just makes things easier. So
why are people negative?
Why do you think people are negative?
I like the quote, hurt people hurt people. So
you like it, huh?
Well, it's just a very easy way to...
I say that all the time, too. Hurt people, and it's true.
People have stuff going on, so it's not like they're really intentionally trying to hurt you. There's one of our early mentors said, like, forgive them for they know not what they do. Like, if the person who was being negative or, seeming like they're trying to hurt you, if they really understood how bad it hurt you, they wouldn't actually do it. Like, if you stabbed somebody, but you really knew how painful that felt, you wouldn't do it. So I feel like there's a lot of people, they don't realize what they're doing, but they're just caught up in their own stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, we have, like, there's been
so the quicker you can understand that.
There was somebody a long time ago in our past who is no longer in our life anymore, but they were so negative about everything. And the biggest thing that we realized with them, which I wish maybe a long time ago we had broken this down a little bit more to understand them more. Not that I would want them in my life now, but back then it was always like they are just trying to bring everybody else down with them for their shortcomings. And we just left it so simple, right? Like, they obviously have bigger problems and bigger fish to fry, that they'll just say whatever they need to do to make other people feel small with them, or make themselves look better than other people, which was like probably the biggest thing that we realized why they are negative and why they are the way they are, is that they just want to feel more important than the next person. But I wish a long time ago somebody had told us, just like break it down one step further. Not that you have to dwell on it a long time or think about it too long or overthink it, but is there something going on with them? Did they have some kind of trauma, like a death in their family? Or could they possibly not be at the stage in life that they want to be at, so they're jealous or envious of other people and the things that they have? I mean, we had that a lot in our relationship when we first started dating. Like, it was like people didn't want Brandon to bring me places, or people would try to say bad things about Brandon to me, or vice versa, because they didn't like that we were in a relationship together. And
they didn't understand it. They didn't understand, why would you want to stay home? Like, everybody else is going out to, quote, like, have fun. Like, that's all they knew. That's what they knew to have fun. Break down the reason why. They were missing
They were jealous. They didn't have it in their life. And it's something that they couldn't comprehend, whether they didn't think they could have it, or they just didn't have it, and so they were constantly trying to hurt our relationship as a result. But even some things like today still come in the mix, where every once in a while when we have to deal with these situations, the biggest things that we see now are stress in somebody's finances, stress in their jobs, or stress in their marriages. Those are like the three things we see now, right? I should say stress in their like marriage/family, because sometimes it's more of a parenting thing. But those are the three biggest things I see now are stresses. And I think jealousy comes of those things, right? That's like a natural emotion that comes from those stresses. So,
so you're saying just understand that you don't know what people are going through in their home life. They could have, could be going through it with their spouse. They could be going through it at their work with their boss, or money might be terrible, and they don't want to necessarily share those things, but it's coming across. So,
yeah, just be aware.
Be
like
aware.
If somebody's being negative, it's because something triggered that emotion in them. And what was it that triggered that emotion? Because the reality is they're going to do, I put down 4 things. They're going to react in 4 ways. Add on anything if you could think of anything else, babe. But for me, they're either going to blame other people. Mm-hmm. That's like the biggest one I see is people just blame others. They complain a lot. They rely too much on other people's opinions. Or they hold grudges. The other people's opinions and relying on them is probably the one that was like resonating with me the most, because if you notice the people that are the most negative, they tend to need to talk about that negativity to as many people that will listen, until they find the person that will basically like coddle them the most. Yeah. And then that's the person they'll stick with. Mm-hmm. Right. Which is funny because one of my things of what you can do to help like combat that and not have that in your life is to, like, if you're not playing into that all the time, you'll notice that person will just naturally move away from you.
They'll go somewhere else for that. They'll reach on to somebody
else, and they'll stop bringing all that drama your way. So what we wanted to do today was just kind of go over a few things that you can do to not necessarily like deal with negative people, but to just like get that out of your life more.
That's dealing with it. I mean, so the way that you react and the changes that you make will naturally have those people. It'll be their idea for them to no longer. They may still be around you, right? But they won't bring that stuff to you.
Yeah. So have you ever talked it out with somebody? Like, I think sometimes, like, especially when you know something could be short term, like finances or something. I think you've definitely said to me before, like, don't talk to that person if they're going to talk to you that way, or like you only invite a certain amount of drama in, right? I tend to have a little bit more of a resistance or like a tolerance for it than you do. Like, you're just like, don't even bring any drama my way at all. Mm-hmm. I don't want to hear about it. I think I have a little bit.
So what's your question?
Well, like, do you ever talk it out with people? Do you help them try to figure it out or see what that source is that maybe is like you're like a mentor, you're a leader. So I feel like you do it naturally without realizing that maybe it was negative.
I do it, but I'd say 2 out of 10 people I spend that kind of time with, because I found more often than not when I'm, in those social environments or what have you, like if people want help, they're going to come asking for help, and that's just not going to be really classified as negative, right?
Yeah.
Most people are coming because they want to get stuff off their chest, or like you said, they want you to affirm their reaction or their feelings or their decision. So more often than not, like let's just use a social example. Like if we're out at dinner with friends and someone wants to complain about their wife or complain about something that happened between them, I will ask questions. I'll listen, right? Yeah. That's the best thing you can do. Like, I'll listen, and I'll listen for opportunities to almost hold the mirror up in front of them, give them an opportunity to see things from, the other person's perspective. And usually within a couple of questions, I can find out whether they're really open for unsolicited advice or if they're just complaining. And more often than not, they're just complaining. And then once I've kind of figured that out, I'll still listen, but I'll look for opportunities to change the topic, or I won't respond. So someone will just talk for 10 minutes straight. But when they don't get a reaction from me, then they usually don't keep going, right? And so that naturally that person may still be at dinner, but now they're going to talk about the game, or they're going to talk about something else, or they're going to ask questions about you, or, it's just going to change the conversation. Does that make sense? Yeah,
I think that's kind of like be the change, right? Like, we used to do that a lot with family until we just stopped hanging around family, because sometimes that negativity just doesn't go away with people and you had to move on from it. But
yeah, I think the worst thing you could do is try to change them. Give them unsolicited advice
when
and
they're
then
not
go back and
asking
forth
for
and
it,
back and
right.
forth. That just doesn't help anybody.
But we used to change the subject all the time at holiday dinners. Mm-hmm. Like when we lived back up back home up north and stuff, and we'd go over to like Thanksgiving or Christmas, and like all of, every single time I would dread it.
Why don't you get a real job? You should go back to school. This, that, and the other. And
we'd be like, how are you with your job search? How are things going on your end? Let's change the subject to something else.
You do a lot of smiling and nodding.
So, yes, number 2, what you can do to get rid of negative people, just smile and nod. Oh my gosh. So one thing that I know that's really helped us out over the years a lot is seeking to find a resolution more than the problem. I know when somebody is just so focused on the problem, sometimes they forget to like look for the resolution. And so one thing that we've always done is like, and we catch it with ourselves. I think that's how, like, if you maybe you notice like you're negative sometimes, and maybe you want to be less negative, right? Well, how do you do it? Stop focusing on the problem and focus on the solution more. Mm-hmm. And even today, not today specifically, but even like today in our current scenarios, there's times that, not everything is always peachy, and Brandon and I can be going through a challenge. And like, if I bring something to Brandon that my emotions are heightened on, he has to I trust him enough that he can check me, right? He can put me in check on it and be like, well, what's the solution? You're only bringing me the problem. What's the solution? And that, like, creating those better habits and doing it over and over creates a better result. So if you're noticing that you do that, or maybe your spouse does that, right? Like, that's a good scenario where if you guys trust each other enough to kind of put each other in check, you can be working on finding the solution more than focusing on the problem. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's like the source of negativity right there, the problem. Mm-hmm. So anyway, one thing I know you wanted to touch on a bit was like just changing your environment completely.
Yep. Well, the example at dinner that I just gave, I mean, you're changing the environment. You're not literally moving into a different space, but
But what about if you hang out with those people over and over,
right?
And they're continuing to be negative? So we go out to dinner with the same friends all the time. What if we just kept going out to dinner with the same friends that were continuously?
Well, that would be insanity, doing the same thing, expecting a different result, right? So you may have to, start hanging out with different friends, as painful as that might seem, right? Or invite other positive, more optimistic friends to that same dinner. And naturally they'll start being like, oh, I don't want to hang out. The negative people will either change or they'll change. They won't come anymore, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's almost like struggling to talk about this topic, so I don't want to talk about it for too long today, but It really is a difficult topic for Brandon and I to talk about, because we really have worked so hard to not have negative people in our lives. And when they come along, I think like the biggest, it's not even I think, like this is just a challenging topic to talk about. So, but I know that it's real in people's lives. Like this is a real thing, and if we're not helping them, babe, because I know this is hard to pull this out of you, but if we're not helping people deal with it, how are they going to get to the next level? So you got to dig a little deeper today. I know you're struggling.
Regarding changing their environment?
No, just regarding the whole topic. I can just see it. I could see it. You're just like, blah, blah, blah. But
what?
Because you don't like negativity.
Are you being negative?
No, I'm being real here.
No, think about it. Like we were, when we were younger and were struggling financially and less mature in our emotions and hung out with less mature people, negativity was all around us.
It could feel like nothing was going right at times. Things it just felt like nothing was going right.
Yeah. We were smokers, so we would take cigarette breaks, all right, and hang out with other negative cigarette break people.
Ugh, just the thought of the smell.
We worked at low paying jobs and hung out with other people that didn't like their low paying jobs. When we were in college, we hung out with a lot of like old friends or friends that were just like party, they just like to party and complain about. Let's jump ahead
a little though, because that's drama. Very young. I mean, even when we started becoming entrepreneurs, it was challenging sometimes because we were also hanging out with people that were new entrepreneurs, right? Like we went to an event and we met people that were like, just organically, you meet people that are, you're like attracted to other people that are more like you, right? Those are the people you're hanging out with, those environments. And not all of them really had their stuff straight either, right? Like everybody's trying to figure things out. But there were different things that we would do in those situations, like, you know, just understanding the whole situation, period. But ultimately, at the end of the day, anything that had to do with negativity, at some point, we just had to let it go. Like, we knew what our breaking point was, that we didn't want to handle that or listen to that or be around that person anymore. And that is probably the most difficult thing, is just like, if you're really close to a negative person that's in your life and you love them, but you know you have to let them go in order for you to grow to the next level.
Yeah, and you don't have to write them a formal letter and like have a sit down with them. Like, I'm letting you go.
Though, like, I don't know. You don't think that? Gosh,
think of one person that we haven't done that with anybody.
I've done that with everybody.
We just naturally. I know you may feel the need to. I don't feel the need to. I'll just be like, oh, I'm busy. I'm too busy to hang out, or oh no, I won't be attending that.
Brandon's very non-confrontational when it comes to ending relationships, and I'm the complete opposite. I'm almost like, go big or go home. You know, like, I'm not going to come and just be like, you're toxic in my life, get out of it. But it is like, there's a very clear, like, I just don't pick up my phone anymore. Or we may have had a situation where I've said, you know, here's some things that need to change in order for our relationship to continue to grow. I ultimately let the relationship go, or that person.
We both
does
get the same
change.
end result.
It's the same end result. Well, I've actually had some people that have really come around because I've been open enough to talk to them about it.
I will challenge you. They have come around and then gone back around and then come back around.
We're
thinking about the same few people.
No, you're not. You're
Okay.
you're thinking of the people that I ultimately let go,
Okay.
and those are the people that I have long years of relationships with, and those are the people that are hardest to let go, which is why I brought that up. Like, the heart's there and the feelings are real, and to think like, I'm growing, why aren't you growing with me? Like, I want this so bad for you, but you don't want it bad enough for yourself. So because of that, I need to let this relationship go. Absolutely. And I just did that recently, right, with somebody that was in my life for a very, very long time.
The reality, I'm just joking with you, too, because the reality is the door, for certain people that are like family, if not actual family, the door is always open. So I was only half joking there. Like, you may have to let people go for some time, but you don't close the door and
we do that in our in like our business environment all the time. Like, there's just sometimes you just can't do that, right? Like, what are you going to just quit your job or stop working with a team or something like that? Like, how do you deal with it in business? Let's take this off the personal side for 5 more minutes, right? And just like dive into the business side, because I know that's probably where you're a little bit more connected, babe. But like, there are negative people even within the teams we work with now. Yeah,
I feel like you just have to ignore it. After you've tried all the other things that we've given, at the end of the day, if you have to work with that person, you just have to ignore it. You can't give it any fuel.
Right. So like, don't give it any power. Stop giving your power away to those people. What I noticed is that when I'm lit up about a situation, like, I was just having a conversation with a girlfriend about this recently because she got all fired up about something. And I was like, you are literally, like, if there's something to make you so mad about that situation, it should be the fact that you're giving away your power to that other person right now, and you're giving it too much attention. And when you stop giving away that power, you're able to, again, focus on that solution and not focus on the problem so much. But you're right, even in business, sometimes I need your help with that, you know, like, sometimes you just got to lean on somebody if you're struggling with that, to know that there are people out there a little bit more that aren't as, they're like, they get through it easier, that you can just depend on them to just kind of kick you back into shape. But anyway, again, that's like a super hard topic. Maybe you guys have like some special questions or something around that topic, but it came up recently. Somebody wanted us to talk about it on the podcast. We were really hesitant to do it for a couple of weeks because that's just not a topic that we're super comfortable with. But we did want to just bring it up and just talk about a couple of the things that work for us to just not be around those negative people. At the end of the day, if you're around them, just get away from them. You know what? I want you guys to think about this. You are working to get to the next level, right? Like, you're not listening to this podcast. You're not going through this information to just like not use it and not apply it in your life. So I'm sure there was a nugget or aha somewhere in that like awkward conversation that we just had that would lead you to go, okay, this is how I could deal with negative people more. But just remember one thing, like ultimately your solution is you are working to get to the next level. Whatever your goals are, like that's what you should be focused on. And there's a piece of a passage that I love, like it's the one quote, the one piece of that quote that I always have been really strong to, and it is this: your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so others won't feel insecure around you, forgive me. And I've always like really resonated with that quote. It really helps me get through times where I feel like I'm around negative people too much, or there's just too much negativity going on. Is like, that's like, I feel like I'm shrinking down to their level by getting absorbed in their drama, and that I'm not fulfilling my greater purpose. I'm not fulfilling my goals when I shrink down to that level. And it really helps me snap out of it and move on.
Yeah, I had one of our mentors share early on. I actually asked this question like 3.5 years ago. And he said, superheroes don't get mad about fighting crime. And the way you have to look at yourself, if you're listening to this podcast, you're obviously listening to other podcasts, reading books, you're someone who invests in themselves. You are the change. So you are the superhero in your own community, in your own relationships. So you can't, the worst thing you could do is be negative about negative people, right? So you've got to think of yourself like the superhero and be the one that goes out there and, makes that positive change.
And it's easier said than done, but when you're constantly flexing that muscle, it does get easier.
Yep. And you become evidence for other people, and then other people are like, well, wow. Then you start hanging around other people, you start attracting different people, and naturally things change over time. So,
and like I was saying earlier, I really brushed on it quick because we were getting into Middleton Madness, but somebody actually like challenged our authenticity recently because we are a more positive couple. I'd like to think most of the time we're more positive than we are negative, and they challenged that and thought that we were being fake and weren't being genuine. And it just like, for a second, like I'm telling you, like, do you remember what you said to that person? Because immediately, like, I felt the fire. Like, I immediately started giving away my power. I was like, whoa, this is about to go down. It's about to get real here. I'm about to freak out on this person. How dare they question my, being genuine? Like, we're talking about our marriage. We were at a mastermind. We were talking about our marriage and how important it was to us and how important husband and wife was. And like, somebody questioned that. And I was like, what? Brandon said this thing, and I don't know if you remember, but it was
I don't.
The end of the moral of the story was... I don't
give that stuff much attention.
He doesn't give it that much power, so he had this brilliant response, and I mean, I was just like, wow, that was amazing. So, just...
let me just say that obviously what we show in public is always going to be the best version of ourselves than behind closed doors in our personal life. Like, we have moments of weakness. We have moments when we're negative. We have our moments for sure. However, what I think some people do is they try to be too real, I guess. They try to be like too what's the best way I could put it? It just kind of goes along with something we've said before, which is like, you don't share your issues in your marriage. You don't share them with other people. Like, you don't you don't complain to other people.
Insecurities about their life they're putting onto other people.
Yeah,
so
maybe.
if they have challenges going on and then they're questioning you.
Right, but let me say this. If we always show other couples are the best version of ourselves, then naturally, and we've seen this happen year over year over year over year, especially the last 5 years or so, then people naturally treat us that way. It's like before we were doing well in business, we held on to the term, fake it till you make it, right? Mm-hmm. If you act as if you're already getting paid X dollars, then eventually people are going to start, then you're going to do what people who make that kind of money do. Yeah. And then therefore, eventually people are actually going to start treating you that way. And now which one was true? Before you were, quote, faking it, or the truth, after you have the money deposited in your account? It's kind of the same way. It wouldn't serve us to talk about our marriage and be like, there's this problem and that problem and that problem, because then we would attract other people who are like, yeah, I have this problem and this negativity, and like, we don't. So naturally, a lot of the couples that we hang around with, that we're really good friends with, our families get together, I mean, that didn't happen by accident. It didn't happen because we went and hung out with other couples and complained about each other. It happened because every time we're around our friends and other people, and even in business environments, we're always positive, and therefore we always attract those types of people. I don't know.
And you know what? Those conversations are interesting because we do share our vulnerabilities within that group of friends, but it's never seen. And it's not seen as complaining. Do you know what I mean? Because we all know that the friends that we're hanging out with, like, our main goal is just like, how are we all staying happily married and getting to the next level in our successes, and how are we all helping each other get there? Mm-hmm. And so sometimes those are not like things in our house that maybe you and I could hash out, especially because we're so opposite minded. But if you hear it again at dinner with our friends or whatever, like, you may hear somebody say something that I said, but this time it clicks because it wasn't me that said it. It was a third party. So there's just a power in, like, it's when you just don't give it enough attention as like a negative thing. Like, sometimes it's just something you're working through. Like,
as you're talking,
we don't say like, oh, we have so many problems. Like, we just hit some challenges and bumps in the road along the way, and I don't put a lot of meaning to it because it's not going to help us to be like, oh, Brandon and I have so many problems in our house and our marriage. We actually don't have any problems. Like, there are always obstacles,
challenges,
that come across our path,
and they always make us stronger every time we.
But even then, I just don't even, like, I'm never like, oh my gosh, like, what are we gonna do? Like, it's never that. It's just not that. It's not that deep to me anymore.
As you're talking, the word that's ringing in my head is responsibility. So even if we are talking about a challenge, like if we're with close friends and we're like, hey, we're having this challenge, which I can't even remember the last time we did, but if we're always coming from a place of we take responsibility for our situation. We're never trying to pass that responsibility off on the other person, like, she doesn't do this and she needs to change, or he needs to do this, he needs to change. We're responsible for ourselves, and we're responsible for our marriage.
Well, and we also don't hang out with people anymore that we have to ask permission to share things that work with us or in our life, right? Mm-hmm. Like, we all know that there's a greater purpose, and we're all there to just help each other. So nobody's going to ask a question if they don't want to hear an answer.
Right.
Like, specifically, I know with our dinner crew, right? It's specifically that group of people, a few of the couples that we're really close with in there. And it is like, there's no barrier to the things that we can't talk about or hash out with each other or whatever, right? Because it just is what it is. Nothing sounds complainy when it's not a complaint. And when you're just looking for the solutions or what works for other people to get to the next level,
like-minded people.
It's a different framing. There's a different. So I guess that's like we just had to talk that out a little bit. There's like a big thing between like negativity and then like just seeking out the solutions to get to the next level, and it's just a different mindset on it. But if you can't be around like the people that you're around, change the people you're around, or change the people you're around. Mm-hmm. So if you can't change the people that you're around, then you need to go change the people that you're around. All right, moving on.
I hope they got enough real talk that they were able to take enough nuggets away from that. But that's about as real as it gets.
Stop bringing up these awkward topics for us to talk about on our podcast. Thank you very much. Maybe we'll have you on the show next time. You can hash us out, because this is like a clear problem we're having talking about this. All right, let's move on to Brandon's no BS business tips, because we had several questions come in. I'm not sure how much time we have, so we'll just go through as many as we can before we move on.
You're gonna be mad at me, but I'm gonna go back. I just want one last directive, guys. Sam kind of brushed over the change the people you hang out with or change the people you hang out with, but I want to give you just two quick sources. One that's fairly new to us. Obviously, we've talked about it before, going to different conferences and meetups. Like, even if you just enjoy running, get into a running meetup, because you'll be around people that you share that, thing with. You'll just meet other people to kind of, if you're too busy hanging out with new, more positive people, then you won't have time for the negative people. It's not that you're necessarily writing them off, right? But you're changing the people you hang out with. The other thing is, look at your local church, whether you currently go to a church or you're, exploring that. I was blown away by the amount of activities and groups that were at our church that I never knew about. I thought church was just, just Saturday, Sunday service, and that was it. Come to find out, there are literally all different types of business groups or just different activities that you could get together with other like-minded people that share the same, core principles and values, and it can be a great place for you to find, new people to go to dinner with or to do activities with.
I love that. And if we had that I wish we had had that years ago, because not that there's anything wrong with you, babe, but for years and years, we felt like we were the only people out there like us. And so we literally were hermits.
We just went to seminars.
And that was almost to a fault for a little while. Like, we had to learn how to re-communicate with people and build relationships again, because it was all about me and Brandon for so long.
Positive. Something's wrong with you.
Ultimately, it made us as close as we are, so I'll never regret that span of time where we had nobody else but ourselves. But at the same time, that could be lonely, and there, at times, it's not lonely for myself, but lonely as a couple, right? That's lonely when you don't have other friends. And if we had those resources sooner, no sense in reinventing the wheel. Go out and get you some.
All right.
That's what Amanda would say, right? Go out and get you some. All right, B's, no BS business tips. We had a friend, Matt in Houston, who wrote in and asked, what are your thoughts on having one source of mentorship instead of having multiple?
So I think he was asking about
do you have one mentor or more than one? Yeah.
So there's a million now YouTube channels with motivational stuff, entrepreneurship stuff. There's a gajillion books out there. I think he was asking, do you follow just one person or do you follow multiple people? And what I was telling him was that earlier on in entrepreneurship and personal development, I followed multiple, as many as I could, because it's like a buffet. You don't know what you don't know. So I say consume everything, because like we say in our
Find
podcast,
what you're most attracted to.
Take what you want, and what you don't want, don't take, which is some of the best investment. Some of the best advice Skit ever gave me. One of my childhood friends and first roommates after school was, I remember getting 2 books, and I was like, there was literally the first 2 books I think I'd ever read. I got through high school without reading books. It was amazing. But I was like, all right, so I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I read Richest Man in Babylon. And I'm like, okay, this one says this, but this one says this. And everything I thought had to be so black and white. And as you know, it's not that simple. And he said, take what you want, and what you don't want, don't take. And that just made me like an avid reader and gave me like this crazy thirst for knowledge, because I was like, oh, okay, there's not like a blueprint necessarily out there. I just need to go and look for the patterns, and that's really all it was. But as I started to notice those patterns, I started to realize, okay, there's a lot of books or a lot of, I wish I had this kind of criteria, but I think it's personal. Everyone's got to figure it out for themselves. But I started to notice, okay, well, there's a lot of things that I was initially attracted to that were like how to make money, how to be a millionaire. And most of it was just money focused. Then I started to realize, a couple of these entrepreneurs I'm reading about, or a couple of these YouTube channels, these guys are fathers, they're husbands, they're not
and
doing...
you started seeking more.
Right, and so I started to see, okay, now this is a lifestyle that I could get behind far before I was even a father, because I could relate to that. I knew that I didn't care about the Ferraris and that kind of a lifestyle as much as I cared about like the holistic.
So
right?
I'm never gonna get my Maserati.
Yeah, right. Of course you will in due time. But yeah, so I would say, don't limit yourself, be a sponge, and then as you start to see those patterns and you see the things that you really want to, you start to find mentors that you. What's the word I'm looking for?
So the answer is that you can have multiple.
Yeah.
And I wanted to throw in something with that. Generally, and I think Brenna was brushing on this, but it was like really strong in my head. Like, I've never found one person that has everything that I want. I've also never found one person that knows everything, right? So we have multiple mentors, and we have every stage in our life. Like, we don't just depend on one person for the answers. And it's because they may have some life experiences that we look up to, and that's what we're going to them for. So, for example, our coach on our brand and our coach on our podcast, like, they have that skill that we're seeking to grow. So we go to them for advice and tips and stuff for how to make our podcast better for you guys, how to expand our brand, because he knows what he's doing. He's done it very well successfully. And I don't know him super closely on a personal level. I do somewhat, but not super personal like that. He came in our life for that reason. But then there's other people in our lives that have a really great marriage. For example, the person that introduced that mentor to us was a mentor to us, and he's been married to his wife for like 25 or 26 years, and they have kids in college now, and they're a very close family unit. And that side of that mentor is very important to me, because I know that I want to be with Brandon, married to him for 25 years, and I want my kids to be that close to me when they go off to college. And so I'm very attracted to that mentor for that mentorship, right? So the point is, like, you have multiple mentors because each person's going to bring a different piece of their life where they're an expert in, that you can pick and choose the information that you want.
Yeah, do me a favor. Don't put that much pressure on one mentor.
Well, you can't rely on their life experience to be the end-all, do-all answer.
Right. There is, I want you guys to Google or YouTube, it's called Sunscreen Video. Watch that video. It's like
it's long, or we would play the clip.
It's a college commencement speech that is awesome. And it basically says, there's only one piece of advice that I could give you. It's wear sunscreen, because no matter what else, anything else I tell you is basically all recycled information. That's all advice is. So, right. But go listen to it, watch it. It's really awesome. Sunscreen.
Hashtag sunscreen. I'm hashtag everything now.
I didn't wear it while we were on our little staycation.
Oh my gosh, and he's got the worst sunburn on his back. Lobster. But really, just to round this out here, to take it back, like, there's 1,000 people that know how to do a podcast successfully, right? But we like our guy. Like, he does it very well, and we like what he brings to the table, and that's why we work with him, right? But then there's other things and other parts of our life that we bring other mentors in. So the short of that very long answer from both of us was, you can have multiple people because you're going to depend on different people for different insights.
Got it.
Okay, Lou in Connecticut asked, what are some resources for free marketing?
Oh, goodness. Well, the most popular one is social media, obviously. It depends on what you're doing. I'm not even going to go into a full list of resources, but I wanted to talk about free marketing versus paid marketing. We talked about it briefly in our real estate podcast, or our real estate episode, but understand there's nothing that's free. It takes time or it takes money, and social media is one of the hottest things in marketing, right? It's one of the it's the thing that you can create content or put a brand out there, and something could go viral, and seemingly overnight you could have huge amount of reach. However, anything that's free, that's a low barrier to entry. So that means you're going to naturally have more competition. You have to work harder, aka you have to spend more time and energy. So the answer is, free versus paid. You're always going to want to do all forms of marketing. So depending on what your goals are, depending on what your budget is, if you have a lot of time but not a lot of financial resources, social media and other forms of free marketing,
it's basically nothing's free because you're either giving away your time or you're giving away your money.
Yep. But if you have the financial resources but really don't have a lot of time because you still have a job, or you spend a lot of time actually doing the business and you don't have as much time for marketing, you need to be very targeted with your marketing message and your advertising. Well, then pay to go straight to the source, pay to get your message in front of your audience, and that will be a faster way. But again, there's not one right or wrong. They're just different. So a lot of new people starting out who don't have financial resources, free is the way to go. But just set your expectation that nothing is free. It is going to take time. You do have to engage. You do have to listen. You have to pay attention more now with free social media marketing than ever before.
Awesome. And then do we have time to squeeze in one more?
Sure, I'll be quick.
Okay.
The answer is yes.
You know what? I have a few more written down here, but Lou actually sent in another one, so let's just answer this one real quick, and we'll save this other one for next time. In fact, I think we could just turn Casey.
Just ask the question.
Casey in Orlando wants to know, when do you hold a property versus flip it? And I think maybe we'll just do a whole podcast on real estate again because it's been a little while. So let's hit up Lou's other question, which is, have you ever turned down a client? Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. We
Absolutely.
have. Not so much in the beginning of our...
I was just going to say that. So we were less likely to turn down a client early on in some ways because we were in survival mode. So in survival mode, as long as, the person's moral and ethical in the business that you're doing, we wouldn't turn down a client. But... you know what? I take that as at the same time we did turn down certain clients because we maybe didn't. It was going to be too much of a time commitment, or financially it didn't make sense, and it was okay. One of the first books I read was No BS Time Management, which from Dan Kennedy, which I loved, and he kind of talked about how you protect your time. So even some of the things we've talked about, like we put our phones on silent, we wouldn't respond to emails like within minutes. Like you train people how to treat you, and early on we would actually turn down business or be very slow or cautious to take on business, and it kind of creates a demand. Like it lets people know that you value your time, and any smart client, other business owner that you would be providing a product or service to should respect that. And if you value their time, they're going to value your time. But if you don't value your time, they definitely won't value your time. Mm-hmm. So the answer is yes. We've definitely turned down business, and now more so than ever. I mean, we turn down business every single week, and it is sometimes very challenging.
We turned down clients less when it was more about the money.
Yep.
And growing the company.
Yep.
There was still, and when he says we still would not take on clients for one reason or another, usually we just have our like ethical boundaries or our boundaries as a our non-negotiables as a marriage, or our non-negotiables with our faith, or what may have you, right? For reasons that we would say no. But a lot more in the past, we would take on clients thinking like, oh, maybe it's not really that way, and then we'd realize that it was and be like, okay, we can't work with this person anymore,
right.
And we'd have to let that relationship go. Now, these days, though, we're a little bit just more cautious before, like slow to hire, quick to fire, right?
We did
like,
less due diligence in the past, right? We fell in love with people's potential. So we would get excited about
you. Sorry.
We would get excited about the potential of like we would see more for a business owner than they could even see for themselves.
That's a good way to put it.
And unfortunately, when we didn't, when we realized, oh, okay, well, they don't, want to grow that way, or they don't want, we're not on the same page, then, we had to part ways. But now, the last 5 years, we've definitely had to say, we said no a whole lot more often because we only have so much time and resources. And more importantly, what we do in marketing is a creative process. Like a lot of it is creative, and it's really hard to work on something that you're not excited about. On the flip side, it's really fun to work on projects that you're excited about.
That's right.
So
exactly. True
it
that.
doesn't feel like work.
All right, let's round out our podcast with our Marriage Minute, which seems to be a pretty popular little segment. We're getting a lot of great feedback on it. Today, I didn't even let Brandon finish the story the other day. He started to talk to me a little bit about something he overheard recently at the Barber Shop. And I just want you to
That's my Boston on you.
You did?
Yeah.
Did you say Baba?
The Barber Shop.
Wow. Can you just refresh my mind, because I know we didn't actually have a discussion about this very much. I was like, wow, this is a great thing
so
to actually discuss on the podcast. So I kind of forget the whole story.
Yeah, much like the women's
I'm sure it's going to refire that anger in me that I started to get.
Much like the women's salon, like the guys' barbershops can be a place of some gossip and some negativity and drama. So I'm getting my hair cut, and the guy's that's getting his haircut next to me is talking to.
Was this 2 months ago?
The barber,
your hair is long again.
he's talking to the barber, and he was kind of, I don't want to say complaining, because I could hear his heart. He really was trying to find he was trying to find solution.
Set on his ways.
Yes, but set on his ways. So the guy is a truck driver and has obviously makes that kind of truck driver income and works probably crazy hours. I think he was saying 10 plus hour days, and spends time away from home, right? But his wife enjoys the finer things. And he was talking about a recent trip that she had coming up, and was talking also about how she also wanted to move into a bigger house or something. And I heard him complaining about it a bit. Almost sounded like he was saying, should she, or she wants the finer things in life, but it's my job is just to provide the necessities. That's the key word he used. Just provide the necessities. Mm-hmm. And that if she wants those finer things, that she has to help out. Now, he didn't specifically say this, but help out sounded like she needs to get a job or a promotion. I don't know. He didn't say what her finances looked like, but he basically insinuated that she needed to help out if she wanted those extras. So
what was his question?
It really wasn't a question. He was just
talking.
He was
venting.
He was
looking for somebody else
venting
to
the
agree
whole
with
time.
him, it sounds like, and I wish I was in the barbershop that day. So what you originally had come to talk to me about this was because you were asking me, how you asked me, what would you say to somebody like that? And that's when I was like, we need to just hash this out. So let me start off by saying this. I asked myself the question today. Let me start off by saying this. That's the type of stuff. That's the type of negativity in people that brings out serious anger in me, because how dare a guy like think like that. But then I got to take a step back and realize he doesn't know what he doesn't know, right?
Exactly.
But ultimately, what I would have said to you if we were talking about this in that moment in time would have been, if you had to say something to that guy, it just would have been like, where does his marriage fall as a priority in his life? Because last time I checked, a man and a wife do not get married so that the man can dictate everything that happens in that marriage, or vice versa.
Is she wrong for wanting more out of their current situation?
It's really hard because I don't know them personally. And did they get married knowing that this is all he was ever going to want out of life, and she married him anyway? Because if she thought she would change him, then she's in the wrong. But for her to dream and inspire, and if he ever led her on to be like, baby, I'm going to give you everything we want in life, then that's a whole different story, because then he's at fault. Like, he should be doing everything in his power to give her what she wants. Like, why wouldn't you? Do you want to just live status quo? Like, I don't understand why people would even be like that. Like, you make just enough to provide, but are you dreaming? Like, do you want anything more out of life? Forget what your wife wants.
I think a lot of guys can be just fine with the necessities, or they're more logical, less emotional. And
just fine, but then
right,
are they?
But what kind of a life is?
But
average?
Then are they checking out the nice chick in the cute little dress when she walks by because he's not completely happy with everything going on in the house? Because I'll tell you, it would be very easy to ignore you as a husband if you weren't giving me what I needed as a wife. And if I just wanted a fancy ring or something, like, that's so easy to fix. That's just money. It's just money. Like, there's so many other bigger problems, like not feeling loved or sexual intimacy. Like, there's bigger challenges in people's relationships than I want nicer things. I mean, that's just money. That's to me, it seems like such an easy thing to fix. Why would you fight it so much? What are like the deeper issues and challenges that are really going on in that marriage? And how much does he really love his wife? Because if he's not willing to put in any effort, even on a monetary side of things, then what other things are they ignoring in their household is like what comes to my mind.
Awesome.
But I could go on about that forever.
Just from a guy's perspective, I know Sam definitely inspires and definitely inspired me earlier on when it was harder to think of wanting for more. Like, I think I would have been the guy to aim lower and hit.
But that's not true, because you said you wanted to be a millionaire.
I know, but
like,
I didn't. But I think I would have hit enough obstacles. Let's just pretend if I was single for a minute.
Okay.
I think I would have hit enough obstacles that just will alone wouldn't have gotten me through. Like,
so you're saying you wouldn't be where you are today without me.
Yeah, basically.
I got it.
Our relationship and your love and your drive and your help driving me or reminding me in my low moments and inspiring me when my confidence was low or when we were struggling with something, I think is exactly why we have grown and succeeded in life and business the way that we have. I couldn't imagine having to have 100% of that responsibility be my own. Like that.
And I wouldn't expect it on my side either. And
I think I'd be a pretty bitter man. I'll just say that.
So I think it's doubly important, right? It's a two-sided thing. At first, I get all fired up about this guy and like, this guy's just an idiot. Why would he even talk like that? But then the other side is...
He definitely didn't know. He's not a bad guy. I could tell. I could
right.
tell.
I didn't say a bad guy. I said an idiot. But then the other side is like, okay, let's just take a step back and understand. You don't know their situation. You don't know what they're going through. You don't know what other issues could be going on. She could be a very mean lady, right? So like, it really is like the overall marriage minute part of it is at the end of the day, like, when people are talking like that, like, what's the deeper issue? Mm-hmm. Because that stuff seems so simple when it's just money. And what is she not giving him that is not inspired? Like you say, I inspired you. So what is she not giving him to inspire him to want to give her more? What's he not giving to her that maybe makes her like not complain about money so much, right? And those things are just so reciprocal. They can literally be the demise of a marriage. That's why Oh, and we heard this scary statistic recently that, it's a very common statistic that half of marriages end in divorce, but somebody recently shared with us. I'm trying to find actual
exact article
online, but I haven't found it yet, that for entrepreneurs, it's more like 75% of marriages end in divorce. And I'm looking for the backup for that, so don't take that 100% yet. But it's still scary enough for me to be like, wow.
It makes sense.
It does make sense because as entrepreneurs,
twice as many things to complain
we have
and
twice
argue
as many
about.
challenges, especially that we work together, that we have to go through and figure out because like we're like always in each other's faces, right? But wow, all right. That was an interesting story that you shared.
He sounded like he was stuck. So.
I get it. But just, if I were you in that barber shop, and I know I know you're not confrontational, so you tend to, just next time you got to speak up because just the way that he's viewing that situation he's making the problem worse already.
Making it hurt, that's the problem.
He's just looking for somebody to come agree with him. He's not saying like, am I wrong or am I right? Or how do I
need to stop driving a truck?
Give my wife more? How do I help
money?
her understand that she doesn't need more? He was just going, hey, my wife's like this and I give her enough to provide. And he was just looking for like the validation, right? And that's different when guys and girls get together and they kind of, like the guys are together and the girls are together and the guys talk about one thing and the girls talk about one thing. But put us all together and he never would have gotten out of that conversation alive. Like the girls probably would have chewed him up, but at least would have been able to hash something out better. But like, do you actually talk like that when the girls are around? More than likely, no.
Of course not.
So I have tried as much as possible through the years to like, I mean, you said we put our best foot forward out than we do in our house, and like it
that sounds so terrible.
Well, no, like
read between the lines, people.
You know what I mean? My goodness, he's giving me like the wrap it up symbol, and I have something really nice that I want to share with you guys. But there's the difference of like you go out and you're putting like your best face forward with brand new people that you meet. Like, you know what I mean? It's like you want to date before you get married and put your best foot forward, and it may not be 1,000% exactly what you see in private as it is in public, but as long as you're like acting congruently with who you are, like that stuff's gonna shine wherever you are. And the point of it was like, I am who I am. I don't sugarcoat stuff with you like inside our house, but I don't go sugarcoat it with a girlfriend either. Like it's the same thing on the complaint side. Like if I'm gonna say something to you, I'm gonna say it to you whether you're around or not. So, and whether I'm around the girlfriends or not. So I do that in not only my marriage, but I do that in business as well, where it's always like if there's somebody that I really would actually care about what they think, about what I would have to say, like I may pretend they're over my shoulder all the time. When I realize like maybe I'm getting a little angry with the kids, I'll be like, who could be watching me right now? What if there was a camera on me right now? What if somebody was in my house right now? Like, would I be getting this stirred up? Do I just need to go take a minute away from them? I do the same with you and I. If you and I don't agree on something, like how would I feel if like, friends of ours that admire our marriage and they look up to us as a married couple, like what if they were sitting here watching us go through a disagreement, like, right? Like, how would I deal with that? And so and same in business, like if I'm in a conflict with a team member, like what would I actually say to find the resolution and move on from it? And I do those things as much as I can because it's literally keeps me from getting over emotional in those situations, and also like keep the relationship really strong. If you're going to talk about one person in one light and not say those same things in front of their face, what does that really say about you? That is my answer to that.
All right, guys. We went a little long this week, but marriage takes work. And it's not easy, but we're putting in the work to make it work.
Apparently something got up my butt today, so
take what you want.
What you don't want, don't take.
We'll talk to you next week. Please remember to go and give us a review and ratings on iTunes. This helps us share this message and these messages with more couples out there. So.
Oh yes, and we just started a little contest. Leave all your reviews. We're gonna pick a winner.
Pick a winner. When are we picking a winner? End of the month?
Yeah, the end of the month.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Talk to you soon.
I can make the pain disappear, and I can erase the past. Oh, I can make the future shine so bright, and I can can make right now alright.